Teacher Talking Sports, what it does, what it do, how we live. And with the fantasy football season about at the midway point, I thought we could do something I would call my mid-season all-disappointing fantasy football team. So in this, we're going to take a look at one quarterback, two running backs, two wide receivers, and a tight end that have not lived up to where they have been drafted in fantasy leagues heading into the season. For this, I'm not going to take injuries into effect. So if a guy has mostly been disappointed because he's been injured much of the year, I'm not including him. That includes players such as James Conner, Cordarrelle Patterson, Javonte Williams, DeAndre Swift, Rashad Penny, Dak Prescott, Michael Thomas, and Trey Lance, to name a few. But these guys were often drafted high in hopes of helping fantasy owners win a fantasy championship, and thus far have not produced up to their expectations. So let's get into it. I'll name a few other players I considered at each position when done. At quarterback, there was a bunch of choices I could go with, but I went with the two-time reigning NFL MVP, that being Aaron Rodgers. According to Fantasy Pros, which averages draft positions in a bunch of different websites such as ESPN and Yahoo, Rodgers on average was the ninth quarterback selected. Yes, he lost Davante Adams, but he's been so superb for so long. It was expected that he would continue his excellent play. Instead, through 8 games, he has yet to throw for more than 255 yards in a single game. While he does have 6 games with 2 touchdowns, he doesn't have any with more than 2. He also gives you nothing when it comes to running. Just 20 rushing yards on the year. He is on pace for about 28 touchdown passes. Far cry from the 37 he threw last year and 48 he threw in 2020. Some other notables that have struggled: Tom Brady, Russell Wilson, and Matthew Stafford. Rodgers and Wilson, kind of a coin flip. Running back, we're going to start with the almost near consensus first overall pick in most fantasy drafts, that being Jonathan Taylor of the Colts. Now, Taylor has missed 2 games due to injuries, but in the 6 games he has played, has not been very productive. His first game, 161 yards rushing and a touchdown, gone as expected. In the 5 games since, barely over 60 yards a game, 301 yards, barely over 10 receiving yards a game, 57, and he has not scored a single touchdown since week 1. So 6 games, just 1 total touchdown. This coming off an amazing 2021 in which he totaled 20 total touchdowns on the season, including 18 on the ground. The other running back is Najee Harris of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Najee Harris just got a ton of touches last year, so even though he averaged less than 4 yards a carry and just 6.3 yards of reception, because he got so many touches, he was rather useful. Still finished the year with 1,200 rushing yards, 74 catches for 467 yards and 10 touchdowns. Thought was he would improve heading into his sophomore season. Instead, he is averaging about 25 less rushing yards per game. He's averaging about half the amount of receiving yards that he did last season. And he has 3 touchdowns, so he's on pace for about 6, which is definitely less than he scored as a rookie. Huge disappointment thus far for Najee Harris owners. Others include Cam Akers, J.K. Dobbins, Chase Edmonds, and A.J. Dillon. At wide receiver, let's go with Allen Robinson. By the way, Najee Harris was on average the 5th running back taken. Allen Robinson on average was the 21st wide receiver taken. Had a disappointing 2021. Many people wrote it off to Justin Fields' rookie year. He finally was going to have a great quarterback in Matthew Stafford to throw him the ball. Well, through 7 games, he has just 22 catches for 224 yards and 2 scores. He's averaging actually less catches, barely, and a little less yards than he did in his disappointing 2021 season. This is a guy in 2019 and 2020 combined for 200 catches for 2,397 yards and 13 touchdowns. The other wide receiver and the second Steeler on here, Deontay Johnson, on average the 18th receiver taken. Johnson last season, first Pro Bowl year, had 107 catches, missed the game as well, 1,161 yards and 8 touchdowns. This year, 43 catches for 372 yards, so just 8.7 yards per reception. Has not reached the end zone yet this year, averaging about 26 yet less yards receiving per game than he did in 2021. The tight end, we're going to go, some other notable wide receivers that I considered include DJ Moore and Terry McLaurin, who have stepped up their game of late, so I did not include them. Darnell Mooney, Brandon Cooks, and Drake London. The tight end, on average, was the third tight end taken in drafts, that being Kyle Pitts, the fourth overall pick in the 2021 NFL Draft. The Falcons have not thrown the ball much at all this year with Marcus Mariota under helm. This year, in 7 games, Pitts has just 21 catches for 258 yards and 2 scores. That's actually one more touchdown than he had last year. But compared to his rookie season, he's averaging 1 less catch per game and about 23 and a half less receiving yards per game. He's had 2 good games, 5 catches for 87 yards, 5 catches for 80 yards. In the other 5 games, he has no more than 25 yards in any of them. So there you have it. Some other notable tight ends, and this was close between him and Darren Waller. That's another close one, but Pitts was drafted earlier on average. Also, Dalton Schultz and Cole Kmet. So there you have it, the all-disappointing fantasy football team at the midway point. What do you guys think? Do you think any of these guys could turn it around? Is there anyone I missed that you drafted early that has not lived up to expectations? Let me know in the comments. I'll probably do this again at the end of the season, or maybe I'll be more positive and do something like the all undrafted fantasy football teams players that mostly went undrafted in leagues yet still have productive fantasy seasons. Don't forget to subscribe. Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend to subscribe. Like the video, share the video, hit the bell for notifications. I'm out.